First gimmick is being able to drive a chair with a remote control. There is no need to drive a chair with a remote control. If a wheelchair user is driving a chair and then they get out of the chair, they're going to need that chair exactly where they left it. So for instance, they go into bed, they drive the chair to the bed, they go into the bed, and now they want to drive the wheelchair remotely into somewhere else. Why? You're just going to need that chair exactly where you left it so you can go back into your wheelchair. There might be some random reason why someone's found a benefit to be able to drive a wheelchair with a remote. Let me know if you've ever experienced that. But generally speaking, absolute gimmick. Alright, I know this is just a demo, so this guy may not be actually a wheelchair user, but his knees are way high off the cushion. And the issue with that is that when your knees are really high, it adds extra pressure to your ischial tuberosities, which is your sitting bones, which can cause a pressure injury. Also, if you don't have much control of your lower legs, if your foot plates are too high, then your legs are probably going to go into abduction. What you're going to see here is a really bad stand-in setup. So whenever you're doing a standing chair, the seat depth is super important, and you can see why here. So not only are his foot plates too high, the seat depth is too short. So as he goes into this stand, you can see his femurs are being pushed into the pivot point of the cushion and the backrest. And now, because he's able to reposition, it's fine. But if he wasn't able to reposition, that would essentially just like crush his femurs in that way. So seat depth is super important when you're setting up a standing chair. And now we see him just go into a stand. So this is what's called a stand-in power wheelchair, which is nothing new. There are a few different models of power standing chairs on the market. In my humble personal opinion, I think the F5 VS is the best standing chair on the market. It's just so programmable and customizable for a user's needs. And this is obviously just another version of it, which is doing its best. I mean, I'm sure it comes in at a better price point than the permeable version, but it's just another standing wheelchair, which probably has a lot more limitations in its adjustability and programmability to get it right, but whatever, it's there. Now, standing wheelchair, most people would see a standing wheelchair as an improvement in someone's quality of life, because now you can be eye to eye to people, you can feel like you're standing with your peers, which is great. But from a more medical standpoint, it's really, really good to help stretch out some muscles that we have. It has evidence to suggest that it's going to increase your bone density. It can be a good way to reduce any pressure sores because you're now getting weight completely off your bottom. It can help with all your bodily movements, right? Your whole body is meant to be in a stand-in function. Like we all know this, right? Sitting is the new smoking. So for someone who's a wheelchair and sitting all day, the benefits of standing are still there for your digestion, for your respiration, blood circulation, muscle strength. All that is really, really important. So standing is something that should be considered with a lot of wheelchair users, but it often comes in at a very, very high price. So the clinical justification around it is really, really important. If you are prescribing a standing wheelchair, just make sure, main things you want to test is obviously the stand and make sure it's safe and there's no major pressure points and no pain within the knees. But it's important to know this isn't the future of wheelchairs. Not everyone can go into a standing wheelchair. There are a lot of like contraindications in terms of who's appropriate for a stand. So if someone's got like osteoporosis or really weak bones, then that can be an issue. There can be issues with people with range of motion if they don't have the ability to actually go into that stand because of their muscle contractures. And to be honest, a lot of people think they want a standing chair and then they get the standing chair, but they don't actually use it as much as they thought. So really understanding how this can actually help someone from their medical side, but also their functional side, you know, in terms of reaching or whatever their ADLs or activities of daily living about, making sure the person's actually going to use it because it is an expensive upcharge. It is really, really good. It's got a lot of great benefits. Again, we should all be standing, and as long as we can stand, it's safe to do so. It should be definitely considered, but just making sure that the client is actually open to it and gonna actually use the stand. Cool chair though.